Invite Manan Pathak to present his views.
Ever since there is a group, there is leadership. When people come together for a common purpose, they form a family, group, society. And family, group, society are the essentials for leadership. Can there be a leader without a group? Can there be a group without a leader? The answer is obvious. Respected teachers, honorable dignitaries, and dear friends, a very pleasant morning to all. I, Manan Pathak from second year BA, Department of Psychology, the MS University of Baroda, am here to present my paper on the leadership challenge. So why does a group form? No one can live in isolation. Aristotle said that a person who lives in complete isolation can only be a savage beast or a god. And people come together in a group for a common purpose. The reason behind this is the motive of affiliation of people. We cannot live alone. We come together to interact, to know people. And another need is the need of security. The motive of affiliation along with the need of security form the basis of the formation of group, and that is why a group is formed. Now would be going to the appointment of a leader and the reasons why a leader is appointed. See, every group has a leader. This leader is unleashed by a common crisis or by a collective goal. To understand this, we will take a look at a hypothetical situation. Consider a group of 200 people living in a village near a forest on an isolated island. Now the group has never faced a crisis, but tonight a tiger runs into the village, and the villagers, they are awakened to the roars of the tigers. The women panic and hold the children tight, and the men start to discuss how to tackle the problem. One man, Matthew, goes to fight the tiger and saves the village. Now the group dynamics on the following day would be interesting because it would be Matthew-centered. Clearly, the village has got a leader. Come a crisis situation again, and they would ask for Matthew to come up, and eventually Matthew would become the leader. This is how democracy must have evolved, and this is how the election and the appointment of leader must have evolved. And the leader exercises a powerful influence over its group. He can arouse through a play of words. He can arouse them through a play of words. Jesse Jackson of America, famous for his speeches, delivered this masterpiece in 1988. He said, and I won't play with the words, but I'd straight away quote him. He said, "When my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me, and it wasn't born in you. Hold your head high, stick your chest out. It can get dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character, character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. India will get better and better. Keep hope alive, keep hope alive, keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond, keep hope alive." These charismatic words of Jesse Jackson, it spread to the audience, and the audience kept on applauding the words of "keep hope alive." Well, now in India, as we have seen that a leader is unleashed by a common problem and a common crisis. The equation is simple as such, but it is not applicable to a country which is so large and so varied as India, because there are so many regions, and every region have problems of their own. And as a result, there are leaders of their own. And the people in India cannot come up, and they are not able to realize a common goal and a collective crisis. And that is why the leadership crisis root cause 1 would be given to lack of nationalism. A feeling of unity is not found. India fails to recognize a collective goal. Tough to appoint a single leader for varied interest. And India seems to unite only on occasions of an external attack or an Oscar nomination. The second cause of leadership crisis would go to the negative attitude we have towards leadership and politics. I mean, I went through some 600 profiles on Facebook, and to my disappointment, I found out that about 483 of the profiles did not have a political view. They say that their political view is non-political, or they proudly leave it blank. I mean, I do not understand what kind of citizens does this make. I mean, I'm sure that it makes irresponsible citizens. How can be someone be proud about not having a political view? And again, it is a matter of awareness. Most of them do not understand the political spectrum. They do not understand what is the left, the right, the center left, the conservatives, the liberalists, the Marxists, the socialists. They do not know much about it, and that is why they do not have political view. It's an attitude among the people that politics is dirty, and that is why they do not enter politics, and India misses on its leaders. The third leadership cause I would consider to be is illiteracy. Well, in India, every man has one vote, be it a qualified lawyer or a primary school dropout. Everyone has one vote, and as a result of this, sometimes democracy turns out to be the rule of the ignorant. Illiteracy implies poverty, and the votes of the poor are easily being purchased. The fourth cause for leadership crisis would be career. Well, most of the people would like to pursue a profession that gives them a good income along with a better family life. I mean, most of us in the audience would like to go for MBA but would not like to be an MLA. The fifth cause would be violence and lack of transparency in elections. Well, it is a fact that sometimes the elections involve lots of violence, and I mean, we also experience it sometimes during the university elections. Now, this leaves a very negative impression on the students, on the budding students, and as a result they develop the negative attitude that we have already talked as the leadership crisis root cause 2. Now I would like to present some ways to nurture leaders. Support the truth, elect the true. Let born leaders realize their potential, and those who are willing to become leaders should be polished. Youth should be attracted to politics, possible only by invoking in them a feeling of patriotism. Swami Vivekananda said that the country is more important than the individual, and it is high time for the youth to understand this. Change starts with I. And there is a famous monkey story wherein there are 5 monkeys and they prevent one of the monkey to climb up the ladder. And while any of the monkey tries to climb the ladder, the monkey gets beat up. As a result, no monkey dares to climb the ladder. When gradually one of the monkey is replaced by a new monkey, but still the new is again prevented, and he prevents others to climb the ladder as well. And this is a fact in policy forming, and this is a sorry fact of our polity. I'd also like to bring into light a fact that the government sector, while the government sector experiences a lack of visionary leaders, the private sector has always enjoyed great leaders, and it has given India some of the best leaders India has ever seen in the recent times. Well, I'd also like to throw a light on the characteristic of a good leader. It is said that a good leader has to be foresighted. He should be a visionary. He should not only think about the past and not only keep in mind the present, but he should also think for the future. He should make and build the India of future. Besides, he should be a motivator to the group members. The primary role of leader has to be to become a motivator, and Hanuman could not have been motivated unless it were Jamvant who inspired him to do that. I'd finally conclude with the topic by saying that India does not lack leaders. It is just that the right and the bright need to be polished and selected. I'd quote Vivekananda that India will achieve success so great that all its achievements in the past will fade away into insignificance. So trust the right, vote for him, and then always be responsible while voting, for the team is as good as the captain. Thank you.
Thank you, Manan. I request the audience that if you have questions, please write it on a piece of paper so that we don't waste time during the interactive sessions and more questions can be invited. I invite the next speaker, Satyapriya.
A very good morning to one and all present here. I am V. Satyapriya from Central University of Tamil Nadu, and I am here to present my paper. Let me just ask you a favor, okay? Everybody please imagine a river with a straight flow, without any twist and no turns. What would it look like? Wouldn't it look like a glass of water left undisturbed? Won't you feel a constant atmosphere over there? This is what our life would look like when we don't have any challenges to face. Challenges enrich the beauty of life, just like those meanders which enrich the beauty of a river. And these challenges helps us in analyzing ourselves. For a leader, these challenges helps him in realizing his ups and downs, the strengths and his flaws. Challenges of leadership can be of two types. They are internal challenge and external challenge. Let me first concentrate on these internal challenge. The first internal challenge of leadership is being independent. A leader needs to be independent. He can never be influenced but only inspired. And he has to be independent in both in thought and in action. This will give him this will make him oblivious towards negative phenomena like corruption, and this in turn will increase his decision-making skills, and he will have a deep insight about the future plans and the consequences of his team. A very good example for this leadership quality is Mahatma Gandhi, and the incident can be said as Keda and Champaran Satyagraha, which you might all know. And the next internal challenge of a leader is to have courage. Everybody knows that it takes a great deal of courage to stand up against the odds of our life. But for a leader, it takes much more than just standing up against the odds. To him, he must stand up against not just his enemies, but also his friends when he has to stick to his own thoughts. An example for this leadership challenge, we can say Netaji. You all might know that Netaji and Nehruji and Gandhiji both were together in Indian National Congress before independence. But both Netaji was firm in his principle of utilizing violence and force against Britishers, which was not accepted by Gandhiji. But still, he remained firm and he stuck to his own principle. This is what a leader must possess in order to lead his team into a right path. The next leadership challenge, the internal challenge of a leader is to have an art of confronting. However abysmal the situations are, he must have the courage and confidence and the art to confront such a situation which is more adverse, and he must never hesitate to take a risk when required. This is what gave us the Vision 2020 of our former President APJ Abdul Kalam, which every youth of India is now working towards to make a better nation. The next challenge of internal leadership is in valuing the ethics of your team members. For this we can take the example of Bhimarao Ambedkar. When he framed the Constitution of India, he not only valued the thoughts of all leaders, but he even took into account the most essential longingness of a common man. He framed our constitution in such a way that every people have equal rights. He gave us the freedom of religions and much more like that. And I hope everybody recognize this quote: with great power comes greater responsibilities. There are some instances where leaders fail to recognize their responsibility and end up in setting a bad example in history. One such example is the Bloody Sunday of Russia, where the Tsar of Russia, the tyranny of his Tsar of Russia created the Bloody Sunday of January 1905. The next internal leadership challenge is intelligence and intellect. A leader has to be both intelligent and also intellectual. Action is the real measure of intelligence, and an intellect is someone whose mind watches himself. The next challenge of internal leadership is in effective communication. The example can be cited as Vikram Sarabhai, who provided us with ISRO. The next challenge next comes the external challenges. It's in uniting people, which Vallabhbhai Patel did by uniting 554 states to give a common quote, unity in diversity. The next is in motivating people, which we don't have to take any other example than Swami Vivekananda. And next external challenge for a leader is to earn his trust from his teammates, which we can take example of any cricketer of India. And as I said before, we need constant inspiration from our leaders. Next, a leader should have his vision translated to his team members such that they accept it completely and work wholeheartedly. The next is he must be in constant update with the technologies. I would like to cite the example of Rajiv Gandhi for this leadership challenge. Next, a leader must have a certain action planning strategy. Next comes the teamwork. I would like to conclude this by saying leaders are not born, but they are created. And it is the response to the situation that creates them. And it is the charisma of challenges which they face that transformed Mohandas as Mahatma. So when a leader overcomes both the internal and external challenges, he becomes such a leader who is worth mentioning in history. Thank you.
Thank you, Satyapriya. I invite Kedar Mehta.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, faculty members, teachers, and all my dear friends, a very good morning to all of you. I, Dr. Kedar Mehta, from the Faculty of Medicine, Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda, under the theme of Leadership Challenge, would like to present my paper titled Leadership is Defunct, Challenge to Resurrect, Depth for Today's Youth. Now, looking at the recent Indian scenario, we know that India today moves in two different eras. One moves forward, the other backward, snapping its core. But a fractured society cannot move in the same direction forward. So, we have to evolve a culture and practice of leadership that is uniquely Indian and serves India. 62 years record of Indian politics shows that those who have become Prime Minister of India are more than 50 years except Rajiv Gandhi. So does India think that old is gold and youth is zero? I think this is absolutely wrong. Just remember the young spiritual leader Swami Vivekananda, who guided India through his spiritual thoughts up to the age of 39. So why there is a leadership crisis? The political field in the recent scenario has corrupted to a very huge extent, and the politicians today are mainly the people who take politics as their occupation. The main reason for the sudden crisis are the best from all the fields have stopped from entering into the field of politics, and we are handing this politics in the hands of criminals and illiterate politicians. So, to get the things right, we need to set our roots in our own land and lead to the horizon of success. India is a proud mother of the world-renowned legends like Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Jawaharlal Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, Indira Gandhi, Dr. Abdul Kalam, and the list is endless. However, in spite of this tremendous scope and potential of the land, which was once called the golden bird, but the country today is facing a stiff crisis in the context of leadership. Even Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam has expressed his views that India is in leadership crisis, and for the nation to become a developed nation by 2020, there is a need to be a large number of creative leaders. So what are the reasons for the failure in spite of having such good leaders? Even if a leading dynasty provides us the infrastructure, leadership still comes with hardship, struggle and experience. Leadership is not just a theoretical paper which comes in the university exam, you can cram and you can pass it out. But as Kofi Annan, the Secretary General of the United Nations, reported that young people must be included from the birth. A society that cuts itself off from its youth severs its lifeline. It is condemned to bleed to death. I would also like to quote a famous author views named Jeremy. He has said that leadership, as we have known, is dead because many leaders have abused their powers and positions and lost their moral bearings. So we have two types of leaders, one coming from a political background like Rahul Gandhi, and the others are those who have become leaders through their hard struggle and experience like Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So, what are the underlying traits or the characteristics of a good leader? Dr. Kalam has very nicely mentioned 6 principles of it: creativity and innovation, vision, integrity and transparency, exploring new avenues, idealistic views on success and failure. So to quote for the blueprint for the future, I would believe that a good leader is one who is competent, capable, honest and decisive and has the guts to cross the swords where necessary. He should take decisive actions with firmness. So, as my title says, leadership is defunct, which means it is dead. And our challenge for today's youth is to resurrect, means to make it alive. So how can we do this? For this, I would like to quote a very good foundation from Japan or an institution named Beyond Tomorrow. It's a project in which the young victims who have become, who have faced very great adversities like tsunami and earthquakes, but still did not lose their hope and continue to embrace a dream to give back to the society in future. It aims to give these young people the opportunity to continue pursuing their dreams and become leaders of tomorrow. Their goal is not to elicit a group solely making degrees from top universities. They want such young leaders who hold passions and ambitions to make the world a better place. Similarly, our India country is also in need of such personality and energy, enthusiastic, moral and diligent leaders. So how to nurture such leaders? We can't blame Government of India that they are not taking any part of it. Even the Government of India has established some youth centers to build the capacity and employment of these youth leaders. There are many national services schemes are also available. I would also like to quote some other non-governmental organization like Disha, which means direction. It is an exchange program in which we try to exchange young leaders between UK and India so that they can share their ideas on the basis of political, economical and social challenges. There is also one World Economic Forum which is selecting potential leaders from 20 to 40 years of age group and create a community called Young Global Leaders, which has a large presentation from India. So this new community, Global Shapers, will provide the youth a global platform to shape the future, integrating the personal, community and global dimensions. The other two foundations like KGF, that is Kalidas Ghalib Foundation, and the Young People Foundation from New Delhi, these are also organizations which are dealing with the youth of India through seminars, workshops, cultural events to bring about a qualitative change in the million of lives. So I would like to conclude my presentation that assessing readiness and transition plans is the need for our own country today. In this era of leadership crisis, to ensure good leadership, it is necessary to take some steps to zone in the event of the failed leadership. So leadership cannot solely rest on the control through increased regulations and handing over to the youth, but a principle-based approach is required to be developed on fundamentals preventing moral fragility. Hence, there is a need to overcome this leadership's void with young provocative leaders at different levels of the political system, at non-governmental organization and some other business sector to propel India to still higher position in the world. I would end with the quote of Swami Vivekananda that rise, awake and stop not till the desired goal is reached. Thank you.
Thank you, Kedar, for being really precise. Now I invite Mansi Bhatt.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Mansi Bhatt from B.Ed faculty. I am going to present a paper on leadership here. So, firstly, I would like to say that we always talk about leaders, right? So we have two leaders, that is attained leadership and achieved leadership. That is, attained leadership, that is, we attend to the leader and we attend to that leadership quality. And when we talk about achieved leadership, that is like Anna Hazare. In the same way, my topic is going on forward here, that as we talk, that we always talk about democracy, that India is a developing country, secular country, sovereign country, and the country with enthusiasm, a federal country, but these things, what we talk about actually, so we can say, are we democratic country or a sovereign country? Probably no. How I can say that? We always talk about India is a democratic country, right? Sorry for the technical problem. Yeah. We have completed 60 years of independence and 61 years for our Republic Day. But still, there is a question whether we are actually democratic, we are actually developing country, developing not in terms of corruption, poverty, discrimination, but in terms of vision, our acts and our will. Only then we can say ourselves to be developed country. India is not developing because the peoples of India don't want to. It's only certain sectors of India that have become a long way, but majority of the population wants to make no efforts to change things. Corruptions, dirty politics, superstitious beliefs, and lack of basic facilities that we have are cropped Indians' growth for decades. And I would like to say that let us hope that India realizes the right to do and think of the right way we are. Finally, I would also say that take a bird-eye view. If you see that, you will be convinced that India is a developing faster and will soon be categorized as a developing country. There are always some indications. That is, look, NASA, majority of scientists are of Indian origins. All the developing countries are eagerly looking towards India for investment. The soft arena is being controlled by India. Yoga is being introduced and appreciated across globe. It is estimated that 40 to 50% of youth across the world will be from India in 2025. Developed countries are already facing crunch of young peoples. Many more indicators are still on. Now, hence, for that sake, we'll start with the challenges faced for us. Challenges to fight against corruptions, against dirty politics, against superstitious beliefs, and lack of basic facilities. The recent scam that we have involved unimaginably big amount of money, such as 2G spectrum that is well known, and it is estimated that more than $1 trillion are stashed away from the foreign heavens, while 80% of the students earn less than $2 per day. And every second child is malnourished here. It seems as if only the honest people are poor in India and want to get rid of that poverty by education, immigration, and immigrations of cities and immigrations. Whereas all the corrupt ones are rich through the scams of the crimes. This is what we talk about today's life, today's recent news. Another is the citizen movement to demand a strong anti-corruption law. That is, the Lokpal bill was introduced several times since 1968, yet there was never passed by Indian Parliament. After first by a veteran social activist, that is Anna Hazare, and widespread protest by citizens across India, the Government of Indian Constitution, a 10th member joint committee, and ministers and civil society activists to draft an effective Jan Lokpal bill. The primary focus of IAC movement is ensure a strong Janpal bill. The IAC is strictly voluntary organization and participants are bound to IAC code of conduct. There is saying that you get politicians and media you deserve. I believe that is true. I have some observations here. People may agree or disagree, but I think it is true, and hence I believe them. Here, first thing is that those who scam about corruptions often are not clean themselves. It is true for all sections of society. Those who know about Hinduism as a religion often do not practice principles of good karma. Those who talk about dharma are engaged with adharma. Some peoples do not seem to understand that religious rituals are not a substitute of good karma. People do not seem to understand that you have to be honest, demand society for others, preaches does not succeed, causes to do the practice that makes perfect. The recent national action in India, brought in a huge parliament without any single group, obtained a simple majority of form of government. The Hindu fundamentalist BJP party, this is the recent news where Atal Bihari Vajpayee was considered comparatively, he was selected for the Hindu party leader to form a government in order to have a majority in parliament. It is not that corruption and dirty politics is the only in terms of parliament sectors and government sectors, but this is in business sectors, education sectors, and various other sectors. Now, when we talk in terms with leader, as we talked that we have attained leadership and achieved leadership, now we focus on achieved leadership of Anna Hazare, how we can achieve leadership. From my point of view, leaders are the ones who have an ability to overcome all of these and such would have brighter vision for our new developing nations. Leader should be good in terms of words and then his in action. Leader should be a willingness to change from within, that is a spiritual will that we have. Leaders are not only the leaders but managers. Visionary and effective leaders, the builders of new dawn, working with imagination, insight and boldness. They present challenges that calls forth the best in people and bring them together around a shared sense of purpose. They work with the power of intentionally and element of higher purpose. Their eyes are on the horizons and not just near the hands. They are the social innovators and change agents, seeing the big pictures and thinking strategically. They find a higher synthesis of the best of the both sides of an issues addressed to the systematic. Are you someone with a vision burning inside that seeks to into manifestations? Do you agree that yourself as a visionary? Of course, if yes, then visionary leadership is based on the balanced expressions of the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical development. They embodied a sense of personal integrity and radiate a sense of energy, vitality, and will. Here, will is standing in the spiritual stand of being. Will is a spiritual attribute which allows a leader to stand for something more self-aware and self-reflective than others. Visionary leaders, and this is what I say, that when we talk of Anna Hazare is achieved leadership, and finally we can say, we never know we can achieve to the leadership through as Anna Hazare started. That is, he was not an attained leader, but achieved leader, where people, we all make leaders, we all make those thoughts to be proved true through the vision of Anna Hazare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mansi. I invite Lavina Rathore.
Good morning, all of you. My name is Lavina Rathod, and I'm a master's student from the Department of Human Development and Family Studies, Faculty of Family and Community Science. I don't have the PPT, but I just want to highlight few points. And my topic is mentoring as a strategy for increasing youth leadership and civic engagement. I'm not talking about what is happening, what is there. I just want to talk about what is not there. So, as we all know, India is the fastest growing population, in which there are large number of youth, and we know there is increased recognition of youth potential and youth participation in civic affairs. There should be good citizen, there should be youth leadership. We always talk about this. Youth involvement in civic affairs, civic issues has always been part of Indian history, as we all know. But the population increasing, but the involvement is not equal. So what should we do? How to enable youth leadership and their civic involvement is a big question for all the people who are concerned. So what, according to me, can be an effective strategy is mentoring. What is mentoring? Mentoring is the process through which an older, more experienced adult plays multiple roles like a guide, a friend, a trainer, a motivator, counselor, coach, etc. for the young person in order to enhance mentees' development and progress in positive direction. It doesn't involve only competencies, it involves confidence, compassion, character, connection. These C's are really important when we talk about youth leadership and civic engagement. When we talk about recognition of youth potential, this is the belief in their potentialities is what we call positive youth development. What is very important for positive youth development is mentoring. So, mentoring has always been a part of Indian history, as we know. The very famous example in Indian mythology is Krishna mentored Arjuna, and also Swami Vivekananda mentored by Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans. So we know it is important, but it is not formally recognized, and there are no large-scale mentoring programs in India, and this is the least researched area. And when we talk about developmental field. I'm doing a research study on mentoring in the context of youth civic engagement, and one of my participants said there are two things very important, that is youth for development and development for youth. We always talk about youth for development. Youth are important for development, but what about their development? Who is responsible for their development? That is where mentoring becomes important. I just want to raise some issues that answering that, which can be a really good solution for many societal problems is the onus of bringing about change cannot be left on youth alone, because we know what to do but many times don't know how to do. So there should be a person who can guide us, motivate us, who can take the responsibility. And this responsibility is on the more experienced leaders. When we talk about leadership, more experienced person who can actually help you throughout the process. So teacher, experts, mentor, guide, advisor, whatever we call them, cannot afford to shy from the challenges of getting youth to believe in the power of persistence. And